Welcome to the Outer Realm with Michelle LaRoche and Amelia Pisano. Airing live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM in New Orleans.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Wednesday night segment here on the Outer Realm. We are broadcasting live via the International Public Radio right on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM from the beautiful city of New Orleans. We are fully sponsored by the amazing people over at Folgers Coffee who have literally been with us since day one. So thank you, Folgers. We love and appreciate you more than you will know. Thank you. Big thank you to Dr. Snick, aka Justin Snicker, for the contribution of his music and his voice for that incredible intro that you just heard, as well as our outro. He can be found on any music platform. He is an award-winning composer of Halloween horror, sci-fi, and dark wave electronic music. So thank you, thank you. Tonight, we welcome back Jason Hewlett. So he is a friend. We just end up being so chummy with so many of our guests is awesome. So we're really delighted to have him back. He's going to be discussing his new book, I Want to Believe, along with the multiverse theory, some of his personal experiences, and his next project, which is near-death experiences. So tonight, in order to participate in the chat, because you know how we all love you guys in the chat room, you're going to have to hit up our, let's say, YouTube, which is UFO Paranormal Radio, International Public Radio. We're on Twitch for UFO Paranormal Radio. As far as the Facebook goes, of course, the Outer Realm with Amelia and I, Canada's Most Haunted, moi. Joe Montaldo, UFO Undercover, UFO Paranormal Radio Network, and United Public Radio Network, and News on the Flip Side. So as you can see, you have a whole lot of options. So just settle on in and get in there. We are already seeing some activity in the chat room. We've got Janie. Hi, Janie. Michelle Millions. Thank you, Michelle. Tamara, Doreen. So hello.
Hello.
And we've got really for real Bubbles. Bubbles Pisano.
Sound like a race car driver.
I know. It does.
From the
Bubbles
Flintstones.
Pisano.
From the Flintstones.
It's great.
I think there was something Pisano on the Flintstones, if I'm not mistaken. Oh my gosh. Forgive me.
Bubbles
Technical difficulties here. Bubbles in the dark. Exactly. Tamara, that's my everyday life.
Bubbles is always in the dark. I know.
Oh yeah, is it like a heartbeat? It's probably because I'm laughing so hard. Hi, Dave. Oh my God, we'll have it up and running tomorrow.
Yes,
we'll have it up and running tomorrow. Yeah, crazy.
Yeah.
Anyways, how are you? Did I cut you off?
No, it's going to be really weird because I can't see you. Therefore, I don't know when you're ready to speak or not. So it's going to be a little funky. So you guys will have to bear with us. Mind you, it could end up leading into some pretty interesting segues and such. So I can see your pulse. Yes.
I'll just go.
I know. Oh, my gosh.
Oh, my gosh. Well,
Good
at least
times.
I'm here.
I know. So, of course, we've got this big. We're going to give a shout out to the truckers as having this big convoy thing, and I only want to make mention of it. Some agree with it, some don't agree with it, but it is apparently in the world. It looks like it's hit a world record for the largest convoy here for Canada. So it said the last record was in Egypt eons ago, and they had like 7 kilometers so worth of vehicles. So this one's going to be definitely, I think, going to take the cake. So if you're out there, please just be mindful because they're not going to be trying to get in anybody's
They-
way. They're
no.
not going to be, getting in the way of emergency vehicles. But if you see them, please give them a wide berth and just everybody try to share the road.
They have the right to a peaceful protest, and so far
Yep.
they have maintained that.
Yep.
I'm not agreeing or disagreeing.
Yep.
They have come as far west as BC, and they're in Ontario, which is their goal. They're making their way up to Ottawa, which is our capital.
And there's others coming in from the East Coast, I believe, isn't there? Like, are they coming from both ends?
Yeah, they'll
Yeah.
meet in Ottawa.
And some are coming in from the United States as well.
Yes,
So
and I
this is
believe the
great.
U.S. will be starting something like that. I don't quote
They're
me
coming
on
up
it.
here. Yeah,
Yes,
apparently.
yes, but I believe they'll be doing a convoy back through the States.
Right. Yes, because they're coming in through Fort Erie tomorrow and coming up through the
Good luck.
QEW.
Good luck.
I'm not leaving the house,
CBSA.
man. Hey,
I'm
Zach,
just
man.
saying, Canadian
just-
border security agents. I feel for you. Good
Yeah, it's
luck.
going to be busy.
The
I know.
trucking stations, the weighing stations.
Mhm.
And again, like I said, I'm not for or against. They have
Mhm.
the right to this peaceful protest. Let's see it to the end. Let's not
Mhm.
have anything go wrong.
Nope. So just want to make mention of
Yeah.
that. So everybody be safe out there. So aside from that, I'm really looking forward to Jason coming on. I know he's
Yeah.
just tuned in. So if we want to, go free.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just put this up for Zach. There we go. Woohoo, there we go. All right.
Well, we know Zach's 4.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So
Very cool.
So everybody in chat, just know that we will put up your comments for Jason as your questions or comments arise, but we're not going to interrupt him while he's speaking. So we will try to backtrack. We know sometimes it gets really busy in there, so we thank you for that. And Amelia, since I can't see you with this tech difficulty thingy, if you want to just go ahead and read the bio off, we can bring him on. How about that?
I will. Thank
All
you.
right. You're welcome.
Jason Hewlett is an author, journalist, broadcaster, and podcaster with a degree in filmmaking and film studies. He has more than a decade's experience as an investigator and researcher. He's experienced paranormal phenomenon since childhood and went on his first ghost hunt in 2003. So that makes him 19. Jason conducted his own investigations until joining Vancouver Paranormal Society in 2017, where he was lead investigator and society director. Currently, he has joined Peter Wren and is the co-founder of the Canadian Paranormal Foundation. Please welcome Jason Hewlett to our show. Welcome back.
Hello.
Hi, Jason. How are you?
All right, there we go. Done my little thing.
Very enthusiastic. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Always for you, my friend. Always
Well,
for
thank you so much. And thanks for having me back on. And I hope you're all doing well.
Oh, we
Yeah.
are. We're doing dandy over here, for as long as we're staying off the roads, because we'd be sharing it with a few big trucks. I don't know,
Yes.
50,000 of them or something.
That's going on. And they're heading your guys' direction, from what I
They're
understand.
in Ontario already.
Yeah. Yes.
They've
So,
just
Wow.
entered, I'm guessing, through Manitoba not too long ago.
yeah, some of them are coming up through Fort Erie, like Southern Ontario, Niagara region, working their way up as well to meet up with. There's a bunch coming in from the United States or something. So I'm always on the roads. And it's just like, thank you for not making me be on the road tomorrow. I get the worst road rage. It's like, get out of my way, So, but at least we've got 3 and 4 lanes here, which makes it a little bit easier than, many places only have 2 lanes, right?
Yes.
They're
So-
coming up Upper Centennial, though. I don't know why.
I don't know why either, but I'm just
I
grateful
don't know.
it's that your neck of the woods and not mine.
Well, I have to be out tomorrow
But I love
morning,
you.
so I'm just like, okay, I'm going to make sure that,
Yeah, I know.
I take the back roads to the other side of the city.
I'm not going anywhere. I'm just going to sit here. I'm going to research for the other show. Maybe have wine.
That sounds fantastic to me. Like,
I know, right? It's always better with wine. That's all I'm going to say.
everything is better with wine.
Absolutely.
Whatever works, right?
So, hey, what have you been up to? I see you posting a lot, and you've got a lot of podcasts and really interesting stories. And tell us.
Well, it's been like, 'cause I was looking back to when I was on before, and it was just before Halloween.
Yes.
And the second book that Peter and I wrote had just come out, the Investigator's Archive. And I want to thank you for putting me in touch with Lynn Russell.
Oh, you're
on
welcome. Isn't
near-death
she
experience.
wonderful?
She is amazing, and I had a great interview with her, and I recently just
Yeah.
finished up what will be her chapter for the next book, which is, of course, all on near-death experiences. And
Yes.
it's becoming kind of even more of an exploration of like death and reincarnation and near-death experiences and how it all kind of works,
Yeah.
the multiverse thing, which I know we were going to touch on a bit this evening as
Yes.
well. But so it's
Yes.
been really busy with that book because
Right.
I typically hunt ghosts. Like that's my
I know.
realm of expertise. And this is a whole new kettle of fish for me. So it's taking longer to
Right.
research and to write, but I think it'll be really, really interesting
I
once it's
think
done.
so too. It's because so many stories are amazing. I know Wayne, who lives here with me, um, has had amazing stories as well. I listen to people's stories. He's got this thing about traveling down on the ship with other people and the whole
Mhm.
hooded guy and like it's so descriptive. He remembers it so clearly. I'm like where were you on like a river Styx or something? Like where you going exactly? I'm curious about that. He goes, I don't know. It was the weirdest thing ever. I've never heard anybody have that kind of a thing. I says, did it feel malevolent? He goes, no, but people just weren't talking. They were just all sitting there, and then you had this guy just doing this thing, right? I'm like,
I've
scary for
never
me.
heard of that either. Like that.
Yeah.
Usually it's very similar. It's like the light, you know what I mean? And being a place of
Yes.
light and people coming out and talking to you, be it loved ones or other
Yes.
figures, and just communicating telepathically. Like that's a
No, not
Clash
with
of the
not with
Titans
him. No,
level
he
scary stuff.
had an infection from a back surgery, and he flatlined, and that was his experience. Very vivid, very descriptive, and he's driving now. He's not in chat, otherwise I'd have him tell it. But it's pretty amazing. But he said no, I did not feel like there was no fear, there was no feeling of anything like malevolent about it. I'm just like, God, you're weirdo. Who's that happened to? So, he goes, I know, but I'm always different.
Yeah, Wayne has some pretty amazing experiences, but when you flatline, it'll do that.
Yes, Amelia's had a few. So
Just a
Have you?
couple. Just a couple.
I don't think
Yeah.
we touched on that last time, did
Amelia
we?
had 6. Okay.
No,
That's
I had
more than a
4.
couple.
Wasn't it?
Amelia.
Was it
I had
4?
4.
Okay, 4.
Although I'm predicting the next surgery, I'll probably have another one.
Okay,
It never
you have to take
fails.
notes though now, because now you do this with me and we have people talk about this stuff.
I
So
know.
you got to come back with lots of detail.
I
That's
don't
right.
have. Sorry, Jason.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
She's got a tech difficulty, so we can't tell when she's
Yeah,
going
I
to
can't.
talk.
Sorry. I'll have to do the pardon me thing.
Okay, that's good. That worked because I can't see your finger go up right now.
Usually I just put that long fingernail
I know, it's like,
in the
okay.
air. The thing is, mine are not typical of what I've heard on the show, though. I think we've had one guest that I have similar experience as they did, because I didn't always have the light in it. I didn't have dark, but I didn't always have the light. Sometimes it was just voices. So it was really bizarre. Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
They're all very subjective, is what I'm understanding. Like there's the similarities, but they're all very subjective and very much based, I think, on the person's worldview, the religious background, if they have one or lack thereof. Like it's very interesting stuff.
So mindset too, then.
Mindset, big
Oh
time.
crap! No wonder mine was so weird.
Nobody's weirder than the river Styx. That's all I'm going to say.
I have to tell you, Wayne's is pretty interesting. I don't think mine wasn't anything
I had
like
was
that.
like nothing. It was just like seeing water. It's like coming out of it. It's like, all right, it happened. It's like, so it is very different. But have you been? I mean, we don't want you to, give away everything that's going to be in this new book because it's coming. But have you been getting some really interesting stories? Anything unusual?
We talked to one gentleman, Scott Taylor, he had a joint near-death experience. So he wasn't the one dying.
Wow.
Someone else was, but he got brought along for the ride, for lack of a better word.
No.
Wow.
Which does happen. It's very rare, apparently, like super rare, but it happened to him.
Wow.
It was his girlfriend and his girlfriend's son, and they both died in an accident. The boy lasted, like she died instantly. The boy lasted, I think, 6 days. So he was very much there the whole time and all the family. And then when the boy passed, he sat in the room, obviously kind of on the windowsill next to like an uncle or something.
Wow.
And then he saw like the mom come and take the boy's soul, and then they embraced him, and he went over into the light, and then ended up coming back, obviously, because it wasn't his time. But it's,
Wow.
you know, I'm one of those people, like, I'm always like to maintain a level of skepticism. So part of me is like, is
Sure.
this him just his way of trying to cope with this terrible, terrible loss? Is it?
Yeah,
But
that
his
could be.
detail, like you say, the detail he could describe was like, that would have to be a heck of a construct in the mind as a coping mechanism. You know what I mean? Like, it goes
Mhm.
beyond that, and it ties in so much more with the other research I've done on near-death experiences that he's done since. And back then, which had happened in 81, there wasn't a lot of talk about it, so he wouldn't have heard as much. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Heard as much. That's an incredible story.
That's amazing. I've never even heard of that happening. You're right.
Mhm.
That's phenomenal. Like, how do you even recover from something like that?
You dedicate your life to finding out more. I think,
Yeah.
what he's done,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And it's pretty interesting. And he says that he can kind of reach a level of meditation where he can kind of go back to that place. And I've talked to a few people that say the same thing. So it's
Really?
like suggesting that everything works on a different vibrational level, and you just got to kind of tune the frequency, and you can go
Yes.
to
Yeah.
that space. Much how people talk about jumping to different parallel universes, etc. You know, that
It's
kind of thing.
true. Oh yeah, it's true. It's all about vibrations and frequencies, and I think when you're dealing with frequencies, we're supposed to be tuned into the planet's frequency, which would probably keep us a lot more of us open and yet grounded. But somehow we all become disaligned. Mind you, the powers that be changed. You know, because the planet's frequency is supposed to be really similar, apparently, to the same key that you would tune an instrument to, and they
Mhm.
changed it somewhere along the line. So we've been, taught to believe it was something else. So a lot of us are just really out of sync. And part of the whole meditation thing is to try to put us back in tune with our planet, like become one with the energy because we live on it.
Absolutely. That grounding exercises will have you tune in. They call it the Schumann resonance, which is like supposed to be that
Yes,
level.
that
And I've
too.
tried that, and it's
Yes,
amazing. It does something.
Mhm.
it does. Oh
You feel
yeah,
it when you listen to it for like 10, 15 minutes, and you're just kind of laying on the floor, right? And it just something you just feel way more connected.
you do. Sometimes you get that drunk feeling, like it's like
Totally. You
what
try to
just
That
happened? It's like a
euphoric,
Mack truck.
the euphoric feeling. Yeah,
It
yeah.
is.
Michelle's got me hooked on it. She sent me a few of them, and she told me just leave it on in the background
Yeah.
while you're doing something. I'm like, when I have one of them, I had to turn off because I was falling asleep and I needed to get stuff done. I'm like, wow, this is so soothing.
Very
It
So
is.
soothing.
Helps with road
So
rage too.
in the
maybe you
car.
should play it when you're driving.
It beats us. Evan. Otherwise, if you put a recorder in my car,
She's a great driver. It's her mouth.
I
I
have the same
don't.
problem, Michelle.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you,
she's a great
Jason.
driver.
I just don't have tolerance at all, really, for like stupid stuff. So I see people on the
Yeah.
road do things, and I try so hard, just let it go, just let it go. I drive by people, I'm like, it's like, look at them going, get the hand motions and
Be
oh
careful.
my,
It might be someone you know. You just never know.
I
I'm
don't
like,
even
don't.
care if they're doing something stupid. Then what the
I
heck?
know. I told my daughter when she first started driving, whatever you do, don't flip the bird to anybody because
I
you
don't flip the
never
bird. I
know.
just go,
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah.
I do. If I'm behind them, I kind of, and it's bad. I kind of do like a kind of thing. Sometimes,
I can't do that. That's awesome.
which isn't good
I feel
either.
better. Just think you're Mad Max behind the wheel. It's
Yeah.
great.
Oh
See,
my
it's not
God.
just me. So the book now, like you're still in the researching stages for the new book. So when do you figure that guy's going to be out?
Well, we've got a few more interviews to do through February, and then I'm going to do some hard writing. Originally, we were aiming to have it done kind of by April, but I asked for a deadline till maybe the end of June, and then edit over the summer and have it come out for fall. This is Peter and I got with Beyond the Fray. We the first book came out, and then we signed on for 2 more, like a few months later.
Right.
And there was a timetable for that, and it's like, never again will I commit to writing 3 books in the span of a year and a half.
It's hard, isn't it? Yeah, it's a lot of work. Well, especially when you're researching, you're kind of going at your own pace. But when you're interviewing people, you're dealing with schedules and you're dealing with so many fact checking and going back. And, if you see something, it's like, oh, I got to go, message this person back because I'm not clear on this. So you're really at the mercy of someone else's schedule as well.
Very much so. And it's kind of, and sometimes people commit and then they have to cancel at the last minute or they don't show up and you have to try to track them down.
Oh, that's awesome, isn't it?
Isn't it great?
People.
I love it. Love it.
Well, it happens on radio too.
Oh, it does.
Oh, yeah.
Podcast bird. Yep.
It's great. Hence, we're having a Q&A tonight.
Yeah.
We've been fortunate, actually. It's just been a couple of last minute and really with legit reasons. So people wait months to come on. They don't want to just, so unless it's a really good reason, like we're pretty forgiving.
Oh, for sure, right? And you do book way ahead, so which is great. Usually people are very good at that point. So
we're already booking into April. I mean, there's bookings throughout the whole year, but we're probably now middle to end of April, like full. So I mean, we're humbled. I mean, we have a waiting list. It's just like for a while, all right.
Awesome.
All right, then,
it's hard to book too far in advance because then they'll forget.
Well, they do. It's
be
like,
careful.
Oh yeah, I don't even want to say the guest name because we just love him, but he just completely forgot one time, and he goes, "I'm at a tiki bar in Mexico."
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
like it's okay, you're good.
Well, we can't compete with the tiki bar in Mexico, so
that would be an interesting conversation. But
I wouldn't have even answered that text if I was in Mexico.
Oh yeah. I think he was feeling no pain, so I'm like, "Well, you have one for us, and we'll see you when you get back." And then the next day, I am so sorry.
Oh, I felt so bad for him.
It's all good, man. It's all good. We don't expect you to leave the tiki bars.
He's a nice man, very nice man.
He's a sweetie.
Yeah.
So, okay. Well, so you've got the book in the works. What else have you been up to? I know you've been doing some investigations. I know you're just full on. You're just full on busy.
It's because I'm doing still the Paranormal Network stuff. So like we put out new content weekly, like usually 2 to 3 shows a week. So just sort of managing all that, and we're bringing more stuff on. Mm-hmm. So that's been. With that, of course, is We Want to Believe, which is the show that I do, and then Hunting the Haunted, which Peter and I.
Uh-oh.
There we are.
There you are.
I don't know how I wasn't even touching the controls.
No, I was sitting here like this. Like, all right. Okay. So you and Peter do
that Hunting the Haunted as well. So we're always like we're just tackling on Monday. Our next episode comes out. We're talking about the Great Amherst Mystery.
Right.
Of course, from Nova Scotia, which so there's a lot of research that goes into those episodes.
Right.
As well. So a lot of research. And then because the world is, technically slowly opening up everywhere, we've been investigating again.
Yes.
Which has been great. And we've had a run of residential cases lately, which has also been great.
Right.
And I know it's something we kind of talked about pre-show, Michelle, like a couple of things I think are worth touching on that dip into conversations. We were in one place. We've been there twice now. Family, kind of typical activity, like seeing shadows. The cat and the dog are kind of wigged out. Stuff banging on the back of couches when you're sitting on them. That kind of stuff. Daughter claiming she was scratched. Door slamming, that kind of thing. So we were called in, and we're doing a spirit box session upstairs. We'd been downstairs, had got a couple of EVPs. Kind of standard, had one of our motion sensors go off. Right. But upstairs, we were in an upstairs hallway between the bedrooms where a lot of activity was reported, where the shadow things were reported seeing and moving. Mm-hmm. And so we're asking different questions. And I can't remember if myself or Peter asked, "Well, can you give us your name?" And we heard just gobbledygook there. It wasn't until doing review that I was kind of going through it. And when that question was asked, the name that came back was Jason, and it was my voice.
I've had that happen.
Yeah, answering that. And I was like,
is wiggy.
And I said it to Peter, I'm like, am I making this up in my head? I said, just listen to this and tell me what you hear. And he responds like, holy, that's you. What
were you thinking it? Were you thinking your name or anything at that time? I don't know.
I'm usually very focused on what we're doing, right? Like very focused on what we're doing. My brain, I generally try to keep it clear because I don't want to influence anything.
How'd you stay calm?
During the thing, or when I heard it, I wasn't calm at all. When I was reviewing it at home, listening, I was like, oh, and got up.
I'd be like, I'm done. Pick up the equipment. Let's go.
I don't even think in all my years that I've had it just happen in that way, But one time, but it was done through reverse EVP. And
Okay. How does that work?
Well, basically, when you play things in reverse, especially with the spirit box, like I own a portal, so I can do it in reverse speech. So in reverse speech, basically what happens is when a spirit speaks through it, they almost have to convert the words into forward. So it helps to eliminate, some of the garbled stuff that's out there, through the radio and such. For me, this happened years ago, just through a good old recorder. It wasn't even done through a spirit box. And my daughter wasn't feeling well at this investigation. So I did what I don't normally do. My mind was just going. And while questions were being asked, my colleague at the time was asking questions, and I was just sitting here like this, like just thinking, I didn't even want to be there. I needed to be home with my daughter. So her nickname was Angie. And I kept saying, I've got to get home to Angie. So anyway, he was doing a reverse program on it when he was going through the and it's on a tape. Besides that, it wasn't digital. Oh, look at you bots. I knew you wouldn't let me down. Okay. Bastards. Anyway, so in my voice on playback, it's me. Oh, they're so persistent. Sorry, guys. YouTube's got their bots going again.
Because we sent our troops over to the Ukraine.
I know. But it was all in my voice. And all you heard was exactly word for word what I said was, I got to get home to Angie.
Wow.
Just like that. And the only time it has ever happened when I heard it, I was just like, it's got to be a mimic. But, you just think logically, like I'm trying to figure out how my thoughts got imprinted, but those are early days for me. As we know now with mindset, like we're pretty powerful. We can project energy and, telekinesis, psychokinesis, you name it, we can put it out there. So what do you think it was with you? Like, do you think something was mimicking you, or do you think that somehow you projected this energy?
Well, I can't see myself projecting, because I typically, when I go and try to keep a clear mind, I ground myself. You know what I mean? I'm very, I just keep myself open-minded to whatever's going on there. Like I say, I always like to maintain a level of skepticism at every investigation.
Sure.
So I don't take anything at face value.
Sure.
So that I don't know. Like I lately, I guess the closest is because of doing the book on near death, and then talking to people for the other book, where a lot of investigators have started leaning towards the multiverse concept or different dimensions.
Right.
So the only thing in my mind is maybe because I was thinking, was that Jason on Earth 491? You know what I mean? Like, was there something like that going on?
It could.
I don't know.
Multiverses are that's kind of funky. A lot of people have a hard time getting their head around that. I try to tell people it's like listening. You can only listen to one station at a time, like radio station at a time. You have all these different layers, in one space. And every now and then, you have this other frequency just sort of tune in. It's like our producer Joe will say when you're talking about ghosts, he'll say dimensional bleed through. I'm like, shut up. Dimensional bleed through. It's true, really.
Yeah.
I know.
Go back to your aliens.
It's like, shut up.
You know nothing, Jon Snow. That's what I feel like saying to him when he says that. I'm like, that's not always the case.
No, but it's interesting with that whole theory, having many worlds, just alternate parallel universes or timelines, which just seem to, what do you think with that?
Like, there's an investigator, Robert Bradley, out of the States, who we interviewed, who is in the second book, and he's been doing a number of, they can actually go and they get to investigate the same place every year, or even a couple times a year, so they can start checking for certain facts. They're like, his team's all like, former NASA scientists, physicists, all these fancy science guys, and they've been able to find that this type of haunting, or a residual haunting, I think it was residual. It seems to be, an intelligent, seems to be from their research and data, an Einstein-Rosen bridge.
Right.
So, basically a wormhole opening to somewhere else.
Yes.
So where is that somewhere else? And when you open it, something's got to come back through. So I'm really starting to lean that a lot of what we're experiencing is contacting just different
Levels.
realms one on top of the other. So in my
Yeah.
mind, I think I just might maybe caught a smidgen of me somewhere else, which might be out there for some people to think, but that's just in my head what makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's, you can tap in so easily to, like, especially with the spirit boxes.
Mhm.
And I'll just take a quick minute with this. As I've told the story before, where one night I was experimenting with this portal because it was first time that we had it. And all of a sudden, something came through. It just sounded like an old 50s movie. And I'm going, oh, crap, what do we tap into an old freaking flick? And it's an old war movie. Is what I thought, right? Hey, and they talk like the 50s did. And there, you can hear the propellers on the plane, and they're talking. There's three guys talking, but they're describing what we're doing at the table. He says there's a man and a woman. They're sitting at the table. They have electricity. I'm going,
Oh,
so
crap.
I'm like, but I could tell, right? They're military. So I'm going, okay. I'm like, what's your name? I knew it was military. I says, what's your rank and position? And they're like, one guy goes, oh, it's the Queen. I'm like, dark realm, maybe. I'm not the Queen of England because Canadians apparently have accents, right? So
Right, well, we do, apparently.
I've heard.
I know, right? So anyway, I go, what's your rank and position? He goes, Major so-and-so, ma'am. Like, I got the name. I recorded the session. And he goes, I said, what are your coordinates? And they gave the first two out of the three. And when we looked it up, they were somewhere over the Pacific. So at one point, they're saying, look, there's a door. It's open. I'm like, like, hell no. I just had visions of this plane coming through my dining room. I'm like, do not go through that door. And they're like, please, please. No, they were desperate. They're like, please, please. We can't see anything.
Oh.
And it broke my heart. And I'm just like, so what was that? Like, were the planets just lined up, right? Because 1 year later, at exactly the same time, on the same day, we tried again. And do you know we couldn't get it?
Wow. So it wasn't residual, it was something else. Like it was something else.
They saw us.
Yeah.
And they're communicating. They're aware of what is going on in our space. They're talking with each other. I have no other explanation for all of it.
That's creepy.
They're like in a void. I'm like, what do you see? They're like, nothing.
Wow.
That's so sad and yet so creepy, really.
I know. It was like, so it's very possible your theory stands. It stands.
Well, and if you look at the science of the spirit box, I interviewed a gentleman named Richard Tortorella for We Want to Believe, and he's a paranormal investigator, but he also is very much a scientist and a science professor. And he's saying, even with the spirit box, like, because I always would think, well, it's a receiver, right? So you're picking up some trucker on the side of the road or some trucker hearing you and then responding. But he's like, no, the range, because it's such a small device, the range is meters. So if anyone is listening in and trying to manipulate you, it's within meters of wherever you are.
Yeah.
Like not even like, it'd be like within this room or maybe a little bit further. And that's it. So that blows that theory out of the water. It's not powerful enough to pick up any sound that was somehow imprinted on like stones. You know what I mean? Because there's that belief in certain kinds of rock. The name escapes me right now, can actually capture sounds and keep them like a recording. So he says it's not strong enough to do that.
Yeah.
So then what is it?
That's a good point.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Unless you're picking up a radio signal from somewhere, like we get radio stations all the time. But if it's an aircraft and staff on an aircraft transmitting, looking, well,
yeah, it was just unbelievable, and it was in reverse speech. I had it on the reverse speech setting.
Wow.
So that means that they had to convert that in speaking, and it was a full-on conversation, responding to me, and they were talking about what they were seeing. And it was two of us at a table with electricity, a man and a woman. They're sitting at a table. They have electricity. I'm like, but it just sounded like a bad, like old 1950s gangster movie, like the way they used to talk. But meanwhile, it was military. And there was so much more to it. I had to record. I recorded it all because I record all my sessions. So it definitely, I think your theory definitely holds a lot of merit, because there are all kinds of cases like that. Never been able to ever get anything like that ever again.
Yeah, and I'd never heard that before. I've heard of the odd other investigator getting their name brought up through spirit box sessions, like on the
Oh, that
Twin
happens
Louise.
to me all the time.
But but
Oh,
it's
yeah.
rare, but it happens, and it just what is it? And
It happens almost every time we turn it on.
It's true.
Yeah.
I'll say something. I'll say, Michelle, stop it. You know
Yeah.
this. No, I don't know this because I'm asking.
Yeah.
Michelle, you know this.
I'll never forget the look of fear on my face the first time I heard my name on that at your place. And I just
Wow.
looked at Michelle and she's like, "You're fine." I'm like, "What?"
How's this haunted?
Wait,
I
what?
don't know.
Hold on a second.
It's a fascinating, it's a fascinating piece of equipment.
Oh,
Mhm.
I love it.
There's
Very
just,
controversial still.
it is
I love
But
it.
we've had some really good luck with it when you use it properly
Mhm.
and don't just count everything coming through as
No.
as,
No.
as information. It's not. There's just radio DJs you're picking up and all that kind of stuff. But we always sort of look when you hear it because it does that kind of. You can get stuff to make that quieter. No,
I like it when everything goes quiet, like
That's only
quiet.
time we count anything. You ask
Yeah.
a specific question, it goes quiet. There's a response that is intelligent to the question you
That's
have
right.
asked. And then you can, that I think is 100% valid.
I once had a spirit who loved music so much, and we were in this tiny little town. If you were lucky if you caught one radio station, it was like one. And I would ask him, I'd say, do you like country? Give me some country. He'd play a little country blip. I says, oh, what about the Man in Black, Johnny Cash? He played Johnny Cash. I said, okay, how about the King? The King. I tested it on like 10 different genres of music, and he played each and every one. How does one station do that?
And that quickly.
That quickly. It was
It's like slam,
instant.
yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't looking for words in those songs. I just said, play me a song. And he did every time, because apparently the man who was coming through the box, who was a past resident, just loved music so much. So it has its place, but I think a lot of people are just too quick to jump into things. And what are you missing when you do that?
You're not being a serious investigator. It's like, I think anyone that uses like an app like that Necro whatever app that's out now, it's it's on your phone. It's supposed to be like a spirit box on your phone. You can't know. That's a computer programmed device. You know what I mean? It's designed to give you things.
I've
at
seen
random.
things,
You
though.
can't trust it, but everyone uses it, and especially people on YouTube, because they
There's
just look for that quick
lots.
hit thrill, right? And you're not a serious investigator then if you use anything like that.
I think some apps are interesting. They are. I've had a really interesting luck with them, because that's what I like to do. I like to experiment with things. The portal itself is more of an amplifier that you can change around. You can put a police scanner in it. You can put a radio in it. I put I had a big ghost box designed for me a few years ago. I plugged that into it. So then I reverse everything on both units. I experiment with everything. And some of the things that have come through to me have been mind-blowing. Something comes through and communicates. A phone now is like a computer. There's so many things that you can do with it. But I remember one, I think it was the iOvilus, actually. Have you ever tried the iOvilus? Big
No,
shout out
we-
to
Oh
Bill
my
Chappell.
God.
Pretty
Be
much
careful with that.
You know,
Be careful.
But because I'm funny with the apps as well.
Yeah.
And when it first came out, I went, because I own, like at the time I owned probably 4 of the Avias that had been on the market. And I was at Casa Loma in Toronto because I was doing events there. And I took it. I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go and try this thing, because part of the program that I did was offer up things that were out there and what to be leery of, what not to spend a lot of money on, what you can, basic things that an average person can go on a tour with, and, EMF detectors, things like that. And when I was in the Staples by myself, I was in there and I sort of started asking questions. All of a sudden I got, where's General 11, blah, 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 all these numbers. I'm like, what? So anyway, I went to the castle's curator the next day and I said, I have some words if you can just help me out. And everything that I said she said, she goes, well, Sir Henry Pellet was indeed like a general in his army. And in, what was it, 1911, something like that, he brought over a brigade of soldiers who were all living upstairs in the stable complex. There was a whole other world up there of apartments and all kinds of things, right, that they were staying in. And he goes, and then the following year, he brought them all back to England, horses, everything, to see the Queen, the King at the time, I guess.
Mhm.
So I'm just sitting there going, everything that came through that thing was 100% validated by the history records that the curator had in the castle archives. So I don't know, are they becoming more sophisticated? It's nothing that you play on your own. I would say no. That was a pretty good exception.
Yeah.
But people don't realize is they also have a built-in GPS.
Exactly, right? Like,
So, I hate to be that guy.
We try to, when we do our investigations at Canadian Paranormal, we try to do stuff where there's no other way it can be influenced by anything. So like even like with EMF, we don't rely that heavily on EMF. We'll get a baseline reading for a place, but there's too many other things that could impact, an EMF spike. We rely a lot on temperature, especially if you're in an environment where there's no draft or anything. We were even at one, it was really cool, Michelle, another residential. We were upstairs on this landing where there'd been activity, and we sort of felt a cold spot. Like we were asking questions, and the REM pod went off a bit, and we're like, could you just move it? We thought in case something was causing it, we got the guy one of our team members to go move the REM pod. It's fine. He sits down. It starts going off again. Mm-hmm. And then between Peter and Michael, they started to feel a cold spot. And so Peter's like, well, if that's you, we had a temperature gauge out, like we've got a temperature reading. If that's you, would you mind stepping back? Mm. Temperature went up 4 degrees. Right. Instantly, like that. And so, okay, well, thank you. Would you come forward? Right. It came forward and temperature went down 4 degrees. We went and checked the room. There's no draft. There's all the heating, cooling units off. Not a problem. And we were able, by asking questions, got it to move. We could track its movement around the room using temperature. So that's something that Peter's been doing this, like, good 10, 15 years longer than I have. And he's like, I've never had that happen.
That's impressive. My entire career.
And I never had it either. And we're going back there actually this weekend to that location.
Oh, that's exciting.
Something else. So
yeah, that's exciting. I love it when you get when you can get that kind of interaction.
Well, it's almost unheard of. Like you don't, it's like you say when you got like all the information from the people at that castle. You know what I mean? Like that to get that level of validation is fantastic.
It really is. It makes it worth. All those times where you go and you get nothing because the spirit's just like, if I don't say anything, he'll just go away. You know what I mean?
So that's not what I said.
Yeah, exactly. So,
can I just say something back to the eye Oculus? Thank you. I used the app off my phone, which I shouldn't have done in my own house. We won't go into that story. It was more accurate than I would have ever imagined. The directions it gave me to where and what were 100% on point.
Interesting.
And it was off my phone. And I remember calling Michelle and saying, we need to clear this, blank.
I did a boo-boo.
Out of the house because I used my Ovilus in my room. And she's like, what? I said, yeah, I used my eye Ovilus in my room. I thought, I'm a medium. I can see things coming. And when I saw that and the direction it was taking, I actually screenshot the words. I didn't expect it to be that accurate. I really thought it was just a joke, like Ghost Radar. I thought, oh, wow, like this is just so silly.
So does it come down to intention? Invitations for communication, a voice recorder, a spirit box, a pendulum, a Ouija board, what are your thoughts on that?
I don't know. Like, I think that could be part of it. Because I know people that will use apps and they'll just take anything it says at face value.
No,
you know what I mean? Which you can't. And people will do that with like spirit boxes too, as we sort of just talked about. So I think And even a lot of people with Ouija boards, like, oh no, they're horrible, and it's just, or they go, it's just a game, or it's the tool of the devil. You know what I mean? Like, there's no in between.
Yeah, one or the other. Yeah,
we see it as more. It's just another method to communicate. So I think intent plays a big part.
Yeah,
in it, like what you're there for, right? The people that kind of sometimes go in and try to almost demand activity, like, come on, punch me, slap me, do this, like calling you out.
Yeah,
that creates problems too, right? Either usually a lack of anything happening.
Right.
So I think it's a big part.
Oh yeah, you have to love the challenge.
Yes.
The challenger.
I see.
Or
there.
Or the demander. I demand. You show yourself to me right now.
Probably.
All right.
Yeah, provoking is the wrong way to go, and it's the most dangerous way.
Yeah.
I made a mistake because, I made a mistake using it in my house. This is what I just want to say, because Nim Dulac wrote high cool tips for testing and confirming paranormal. They're cool tips, but please don't investigate in your own home. There's a reason for that. You're opening a door and you may think, oh, it's just an app on my phone, but look at me. I mean, I made the mistake of saying, who's there? What's your name? And I got no one. Where are you? Here? And I thought, this is so stupid. It's just picking up all kinds of, I got radio towers, a couple kilometers behind me, south of me. That's what it's picking up. This is ridiculous. Then it started talking to me without me talking to it. And that's where the trouble happened.
I think
when the words are just coming at me and I'm not asking a question.
I think anything is possible. Anything I use gets put through reverse speech mode. That's it.
Yeah. To see if it can kind of rule out the chance for trickery or something.
It has to be intelligent to convert it, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No matter where it's coming through, if it can convert it to forward, then that makes me feel like at least it's something, because let's face it, there's nothing definitive, but it makes me feel that much better kind of going, okay, see, that's something right there that could potentially, unless it's like blow it right out of the ball field, it's like, that doesn't happen often.
No.
Yeah.
No, it's like our temperature following something using temperature. That's like once every 20 years kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's exciting though.
But that spirit might do it for you again.
Pardon me?
If they like you, the spirit would probably do it for you again.
Well, and that's what we're hoping. And like this time, this is something that we've started really trying to do. Like when we go in the first time, especially to a residential home, usually the homeowner's there the first time because they give us the tour, they're talking, and we just let them hang out in another room or something like that. And we do our thing. So they were home. So this time, same with when we went back to the house where I heard my name, we asked the people to leave. And this is what we're doing on Saturday as well, to leave, because we want to get to see if the activity's just there or is it related to the people who are living there. There's so many variables, or is the person living there impacting the activity in some way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we're going to be curious. I'm curious to see if we go back upstairs and see if we can get that to play out again with them not there.
Yeah.
Can't wait to hear about it.
And I mean, it clearly shows there's a degree of intelligence if they're actually listening to you and they're going back and forth and non-such dimensional bleed through.
Oh, you have to group chat us on Sunday. Tell us what happened. I'm just so excited.
Yeah, exactly.
I just have this funny feeling like the spirits know you're coming and you will have that interaction with them. I feel like they're aware of you being there.
So. I mean, I've even noticed after those two that I started having stuff happen around the house more often, like my house.
Right. For the following.
Not usually the case.
Right.
I try to be quiet because my wife and son are upstairs. I don't want to
that's yeah.
If you ever have a problem with that,
house. Yeah.
If you ever have a problem with that, I know someone who can help you.
Okay, good. Because it's been okay, but there's been like weird technical glitches going on that shouldn't be happening. Stuff just disappearing, and then seeing things a bit more, right, and just sensing stuff around.
So what exactly do you think is at this location? Obviously, is it fairly benign if you're comfortable with them following you back?
Yeah, I don't know. Like I didn't have anything. None of us, when we were investing at either places, had anything bad happen. And the homeowners at the house where we got the movement, they've been there for a couple of years. I mean, it's kind of freaky to them. Like when they first moved in.
Yeah, of course.
Moving totes, like they'd have their totes of clothes laid out. She'd go downstairs, come back up, and the totes would be stacked. It would be that kind of.
That's almost poltergeist.
That is,
almost.
Yeah.
That's
right. But poltergeist, to me, doesn't typically respond to requests for least from my limited experience with them. And I have very
No.
limited experience with poltergeists.
Well,
Yeah,
you could have more than just
stalking, though.
poltergeist. You could have spirit and poltergeist there. Did you have a medium or a
Mm.
psychic with you?
No, we like to go in the first few times without,
That
Right.
makes
and then get
sense.
enough data. And then when we use a medium or psychic, they go in blind, and we
Yes.
mention nothing.
Yeah.
Right.
You might
Right.
want to consider bringing one the third time and make sure that the spirits aren't grounded and
Yeah.
make sure it is benign.
Well, that's the hope.
Yeah.
I was going to say,
Yeah.
too late, it's in the house.
Yeah.
you don't want to continue opening that door if it's not right, but they haven't had any bad experiences, right? It's just been kind of strange things happening.
Strange things and inconvenient things more than ever. Like
Yeah.
Peter was coming over to bring some footage from when we were up in Barkerville doing our investigation in the show, and it was on he brought his computer, and the picture's supposed to be on the computer, but then he boots the computer up and he can't find them. They're not there. So he puts them on a memory stick, and just as he goes to stick it in my computer, the whole computer just shuts down on its own.
Nice.
It's that kind of stuff. And then he goes home and gets them and emails me the pictures, and it's fine. Like they were still on his, he says, they were on the laptop when I got home, went to your place. They weren't there. I go back home and they're back. It's that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I would love to go in there.
Something, yeah, just farting around with you a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, it's
And I've
not
always had
unheard
stuff
of.
floating around with me no matter for
Well,
years.
yeah,
right?
you've
Yeah.
got
Used
a
to
light
it.
bulb over you, so
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not unheard of for spirits to follow. You know, let's face it, if there's something about you that's really interesting, you know, they want to know more about you. I think
Mhm.
it's good because people interact. You are making that invitation, whether you know, because you're asking for interaction.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And some spirits still, you know, if the theory that time is irrelevant to them, then they're still ready to go. They still want more. They're going to try to come back and interact with you. But the
Yeah.
key is do you even attempt to interact with them when it's in your space?
Well, I haven't been attempting. I'm doing
Right.
the opposite, right? Like I'm not,
Yeah.
you know, other than just saying once in a while, like, would you buzz off?
Yeah, just say, would you go back? I'll see you in a week.
Yeah, I
You know?
get the crap
Yeah.
done here. You know, you keep turning my machine off. Like other than that, I haven't. In fact, anything that's ever happened in a house that I've lived in, and it's happened in two to three houses that I've lived in,
Right.
I've never invited anything in.
Right.
No.
It's always just kind of been there or showing up somehow.
Mhm.
In one place, I'm sure it was my father, like
Right.
who'd built the house, and he had died, you know, of a heart attack and stuff. So it was him coming back,
Oh.
kind of just having some. He was a bit of a prankster, but also
Yeah.
just making contact as a parent would, right, who went too soon. But in other places, especially the house we're in now, which we're the second owners of ever in its
Right.
whole 50-year history, never asked for anything to happen.
Right.
Even when I wasn't
Right.
investigating, stuff was going on. Like, because took a long break from investigating when I was a mainstream journalist, because mainstream journalism and ghost hunting doesn't go together.
It doesn't, no.
No.
It's that whole credibility thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Incredible.
But it was happening even then.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, then
It's-
maybe it's on the land.
Could be.
And
Wow.
you're just, you know, this lighthouse that attracts it, this magnet.
And
I
now
would pay attention to what they're saying or doing, or keep a journal of all these little things. It could be amount to a message for you.
Well, we're wondering that. We're actually going to come and investigate here one day, like the team, just when you know, on an afternoon or night when my wife and son can go out for a few hours
Mhm.
and do it here. Peter and I did a spirit box session here a few years ago, and we got the little girl's voice that came across. And there was one of the previous owners had mentioned as an offhand comment that downstairs, which is where most of the activity, pretty much all of it is,
Mhm.
that he thought that once in a while there'd be like a man and then a girl presence that he couldn't put his finger on, but he just got that impression.
Has your son ever seen anything? Because they're like little natural
Oh.
psychics.
He part of it, you can chalk up to him just being the age. He doesn't like being downstairs,
Oh, no.
Oh.
like, you know, at least unattended,
He
right?
knows. Yeah, he
Mhm.
knows.
There's that. And I remember he said once when he was like 4, so you just kind of couldn't quite count. You don't know how to take it.
Yes.
But he was like, yeah, Dad, there's like 2 spirits that live here. One of them lives in the walls and likes to come out at night and bug the dog. And then there's another one that's downstairs. But they're
Oh.
both at work, he said, right now. Like it was just during the
Right.
day kind of thing, right?
Wow.
And so that's what kind of threw me was that they're at work right now statement, because they're like, kid, you're just
It's
having
work
fun, right?
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I don't
In
know,
the
like,
walls is interesting too.
yeah, in the walls, right?
That's usually comes hand in hand with ET. In the walls.
In the walls with what do you mean, like ET? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, like Grace and such.
Really?
Yeah, Grace
Yeah.
would be in the walls.
And they wouldn't be out during the day. They don't like the light.
like
So
the
they'd be
lights.
in the walls and then come out at night.
and see, in the one most profound experience, like the computer stuff's been during the day, and Peter's even said he's seen something downstairs standing like a shape or shadow during the day. The most
Right.
profound experience I had here at night. This was like going back 11, almost 12 years, when I had kind of a campus radio show Friday nights at 10 o'clock. And I always wait for my buddy and co-host Sean to come pick me up. And I was downstairs listening to music, sort of sitting on the floor. And you know when you just know someone's behind you, like you just know.
Mhm.
I remember I turned and I looked behind me, and all I saw was a black shape standing there,
Mm.
very tall. Like now you mentioned Grays, thin and wiry, but tall.
Big.
Yeah, not a huge head. Like it seemed like just a regular
Ah.
conical kind of
Yeah.
head sort of thing. But it was funny, and we looked at each other for like a second or two, and it turned and ran with such speed, like it was just like turning, boom, gone.
Right.
I remember going upstairs in a bit of a daze, like to my wife, like, were you just for some reason downstairs for any particular reason? And she's like, no. And she's like, why? And I said, I'm like, nothing. I'm just gonna
Oh yeah, I doubt she takes nothing from a ghost investigator
I wasn't doing any of that
too
then,
lightly.
So I was on my hiatus.
Well,
Several-year hiatus at
We
the
may
time.
have knocked you into the UFO field. It's just
Maybe.
in this
It's just a matter
conversation.
of time. I think all paranormal
Yeah.
researchers eventually get into ufology only because, like I know at least with half of the amount of cases that I've had over the last couple of decades, half of them have had ET interaction as well.
What do you think the ET stuff is then? Is it like from up there, or is it from a different dimension? Like what
I
John
think-
Keel kept talking about, kind of. He thought they were coming from some other ultra universe or something like that.
I think it depends. Even Paul Hillier had said there were at least, 163 different species at one point before he passed. I believe some of them are here long before us. They're in the mountains or in the oceans, or they're under like subterranean. I believe some of them are dimensionals and do use portals to come in and out. And I do definitely believe that some of them come from other galaxies and universes. And I think it just depends on, I don't want to say species, on the race. I want to be more respectful. So it depends on the race.
I've wondered about that, because a lot of and I'm sure we talked about this before, like the skinwalker stuff definitely sounds more interdimensional than
Yes.
extraterrestrial, like outer space. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah, it does. They
think
do.
so.
I think you're right about that. They
Yeah, I
do. They're
think
really
so.
creepy looking.
Oh,
They are, and just the
You know.
phenomena itself just seems so just related to that.
Their
Like the
names,
talk of
too.
portals opening and stuff coming through
Well,
and stuff
yeah.
just
and
disappearing.
All of a
cryptid.
sudden, a flash of light and gone.
Yeah,
Cryptid.
flashlight, cryptid stuff, poltergeist
Yes.
activity. You know what I
Well,
mean? Like,
think about it, Nessie. How many people have seen the Loch Ness monster? How many? They're doing all these tests. They're like, this lock cannot sustain an animal of this size, because I truly think it's coming through a portal.
Mhm.
It
Yeah.
comes in, it comes out. It's just the same, like layers.
Yeah.
We had that
Bigfoot.
conversation with Nick.
Yeah. Bigfoot. People are just like, oh no, it's just like, lost man and this and that. And I'm just like, it's possible, because we have, especially out your neck of the woods, there's caverns and thick forests, and you could disappear forever in there. But, there are people like such as Corey Good, which some people believe is compromised. So we shouldn't really watch how much you say, about what he says. But let's, early days before he was, he had made reference to seeing Bigfoot in military bases.
Mhm.
Like,
Well, there's the prints that disappear halfway through a yard, like in the middle of winter, right? Footprints that just kind of walk into the middle of a yard. Bigfoot footprints.
wow.
Wow.
Gone,
And just
right?
there you go.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's
Theory proven.
stories about that,
Where?
pictures of it, even, and then even some people saying that
And they're
it
gone.
communicates telepathically with them.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's
The
ET,
telepathically I've heard, but I never heard of Bigfoot just footprints appearing. Where was
Yeah.
that?
That's ET.
That is
It
so
really
cool.
extraterrestrial is just something that's not necessarily here.
That's just so cool.
From here.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
mean,
And I hate explaining an unknown with another unknown, but when you hear enough stuff, you got to look at it as an option, especially if you are going to, like we're talking about getting into multiverse theory, because that multiverse explains everything in a nice way, right?
It does. It does. I'm just trying to see here. I brought something up, and I'm just trying to see if I have it in my notes because I want to know if you knew anything about it. 1 second. Where is it? I think it was called the Mega. Was it the Megaverse? Oh, come on. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? My luck, I probably won't have it because I've got a million notes, and I wanted to see if this is something that you were aware of. And from where I'm sitting, I don't even think that I have it. Oh, Ultraverse. Have you heard of the Ultraverse?
That's, I think, isn't that the one John Keel kind of talked about? And he called them people from their ultra terrestrials.
Yes, it was Jacques Vallée, who was known as the I'll just read you from my notes. Who was known as the grandfather of ufology, a French astronomer, computer scientist, whose first experience with UFOs as a 16-year-old boy. I won't get into all of that, but he did share the same ideology as John Keel. Yeah. Again, with respect to ultra terrestrials and the proposed control theory. Because during his research, which, I guess he researched it further, he observed similarities between medieval European folklore, such as gnomes, fairies, goblins, and modern aliens, right? He said that they can all do things that would leave you, let's say, paralyzed or disoriented with loss of memory. So he really gets deep into it. He says like underlying archetypes are extracted. The saucer myth, as he calls it, seems to coincide to a remarkable degree with fairy faith of Celtic countries, religious miracles, all kinds of stuff. Like it's just crazy. And when you think about it, it's one of those interdimensional things right now. It's called a bot.
Calling you. It's the
right up from the other side of the world.
Our forces have
right
left
into our chat room. So
our forces have left the building.
I know. But I just find all of these theories to be so plausible.
Well, I do too. And the neat thing with the ultraverse theory and the ultra terrestrials that Keel kind of said is as we've evolved, they've kind of evolved with us. So yeah, back in medieval times, they looked like fairies and goblins, etc. But once we got more developed, that's why, like, in the Egyptian pyramid times, they were chariots, literally chariots of the gods flying in space. And now they look like stealth bombers and all our other high-tech aircraft that we have. So they're evolving along with us.
Right.
Making them, basically, I think his theory was that in order for us to see and understand them, they have to appear in a way that we get it.
That's right.
Right. And so Mothman was just a version of something that we could make sense of compared to, if a dragon from the 12th century showed up, we'd be like, you know what I mean? And
I did a whole show on dragons.
Yeah.
And there is proof of these things. So I agree with you. Portals. I still talk to people who tell me they see dragons.
Interesting. Well, wasn't it the last time I was on, people that would see like the Watchers? The big beings in the sky, right? Like it's just another variation on Indrid Cold is believed to be an ultra terrestrial when Indrid Cold started showing up.
Right.
Talking to people about experiences. Men in Black have been described as being them because they're just a bit off enough, right? Like I don't know. I'm a big fan of Keel, so I could see.
I know. Right? But can you imagine just standing there, some big ass dragon just goes flying by you, be like, yeah, there was a sighting in the Adirondack Mountains
of a dragon. When was that?
I got this story 2 years ago, and then I had another client a few years ago who said to me that she could tap in to things, and she could dimensionally, like, just see all kinds of mythical creatures. And she goes, dragons are very protective. And when Joe and I did the Gray Zone Uncensored, did a segment on dragons, it is unbelievable the amount of things that are written historically about dragons. And there's a church in Italy, again, the name eludes me because there was a lot of information on that show, that is said to have the rib of a dragon because the
Really?
town folks killed it.
Huh.
And there's a rib in the church for people to
sh-
see.
Are we sure it's not a dinosaur?
Right? But
Yeah,
tell me
it's
what,
hard.
I mean, aside from a pterodactyl, tell me what could fly and hold up that kind of weight. Seriously.
Well, and there's like sightings, they call them thunderbirds, etc., but they're very
Yes.
much that, which I always wonder if that maybe could be mistaken for a dragon or vice versa, right? Like,
Well,
you know, if one-
Thunderbird would look like either the pterodactyls have been
Yeah.
called Thunderbirds, and so have, I mean, some of them look like giant freaking eagles, like
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings, right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, like my little, yeah. So I don't know. I believe anything is possible when you're talking dimensions because we don't know they're coming from another galaxy, another planet. I mean, we don't know how far some of these things actually reach, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But
Or if it's even just right on top of us, we just right now, and it's
Yeah.
just like changing that vibration to kind of get
Yeah.
into, you know what I mean? Vice versa. Like it's the one, I'm glad that science is actually starting to take a look at that possibility now.
I agree.
Scientists are actually embracing the multiverse concept because it does make sense. And the time is not always linear. It's very circular. And
There is, and people get into time slips. You know, time slips are interesting to me because there's so many people that will be. The one that sticks out to me the most is that of a woman who woke up in her own bed wearing different pajamas in her apartment, but it wasn't her life. She actually has a reward out right now for anybody who can help her get back to her time because her fiance was there. She can't find any trace of him. She goes to the building where she went to work every day. It's a different building, yet when she gets in there, it's all the same. Her apartment is where it should be, but she woke up wearing something different and she is completely aware of her life, but all the people that were in her life no longer exist.
Okay.
weird.
Respectfully, has she had a psych eval?
She has done everything. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's why she just basically, she's got a standing reward to this day to anybody who can give her an explanation and who can get her back.
There's a reason why she's being held back. There's a reason why they don't want her to go back.
I know. It's
Yeah, there's so much more to it than
it's
that. If that's
so
real, that's really crazy.
insane,
Wow.
you know. I know. There's stories of, you know, in England, this plane went going by this old airfield, and he knew that the airfield was no longer used,
Mhm.
but he could see all this. He's going, where do these planes come from? These aren't even the colors that we use, you know, like these colors don't exist. Like our planes are all this color. He was just taking a sidetrack around to get back to his base. And, you know, it turned out, like, if memory serves me right, that it's because it was a few years in the future. Like, those planes ended up coming, and there somebody from that time said, oh my God, I remember, like, it was him who came. He was the time slip because they're like, we saw this old plane flying over us. There, you know, it's just weird how they changed the whole thing around, because the whole time you're reading it, you think it's those guys are the time slip, but it's him.
Yeah.
He slipped
It
into
was out of
their
time.
time. Yeah.
So
That's that, and then that ties into some UFO stuff too, right? Where like the
Yeah.
aircraft disappearing and then showing up again X number of years later. Paul
Yes.
Dino and what his book, Beyond the Paranormal talks. He does a radio show talking to someone that he was interviewing a couple that had been driving, and they ended up in this town that had been gone for years. They were there, and they report everyone looked like they're from the 50s and the clothing styles and vehicles, and they interacted with everyone, and they kind of just thought it was this odd little place, and they drove away. And then on the way back, they came, and the whole town was abandoned. Like, I don't know if it's true, but I mean, it's like, if it is, like, wow, you know.
I don't think that we can, you know, rule out anything. I mean, we really don't know. And she could have just slipped through a portal and can't make her way back.
Well, or a time slip. Like there's another story I read where it was somebody was just in their house, and they could hear all these voices, and they walked in, and there was this whole other thing going on. Like it's just, it happens like this, and they step out of one room, all of a sudden everything changed in it. But it's just momentary. Hold on here. Oh, they should check on any people who have passed on. She looked for everybody she knew, but primarily her fiance, because she had a life with this person for 7 years, and he had a son. So she went on to try to find like both of
she
them.
come from the future, Michelle, or the past? Because
Um,
doesn't Gene Roddenberry like always say, I heard this, so I don't know if it's true, that you can go forwards, but you can't go backwards because future you can't see past you.
all she knew is she just, well, yeah, because you have too many, paradoxes and stuff,
Yeah.
right? But she basically just remembered she woke up wearing different pajamas. She went to bed that night, woke up in the morning wearing different pajamas, and her whole life was different. That's
This
it.
is like
Crazy.
the film Family Guy.
Yeah.
Seriously, right? Family Man,
Simpsons
Family
called
Guy,
it.
Family Man.
I know.
Yeah.
I don't
right?
know. I don't know.
Crazy.
It is.
Wow. Jessica's gonna have nightmares tonight.
Yes. Sorry, Jessica.
That's awful. That's so scary, but fascinating. She's gonna have nightmares.
Well, it gives you pause, because if that can happen,
Yeah.
like that, you have no control over that.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, and like
No.
you say, the people that sort of just step into a room and suddenly everything's different, and they kind of walk back and everything's returned. It's just like, what happened?
But Jason,
Right.
wouldn't you go to the government and say, because if you've already been through
The
a
buggers did
psychoval,
this. Yeah, they're
wouldn't
always
you go
messing
to
around
the
with
government
stuff.
and
I know.
say, like I'd be sitting on the porch at Langley saying, knock, 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 hello, you need to get me back.
Yeah, like what just happened
Because
here? guys?
obviously, it's either stumbled on by accident or her memory
Yeah.
was wiped. And I bet you they know damn well what happened to
Subject
her.
Different
Oh,
timeline.
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly what, either that. Yeah, it has to be her. I thought, okay, maybe like it was her fiance and son, but it's like everything was just changed slightly.
Yeah. So different timeline, or a different part of the multiverse, right? Just went into
Yeah.
that went into Earth 9 or something like that. I
Yeah,
don't know.
you
how to
just
explain it.
can't drop back in.
That's
Yeah.
frightening.
But I don't know. I think, we live in a wonderful, like our universe is full of possibilities. And if even the theory, because apparently science now has proven that our reality doesn't actually exist.
Yeah.
So we're all just doing nothing in this matrix right now. We're not really talking to one another.
Yeah.
We're bots.
I just read an article on that today, actually. It's just like they've just proven that they did an experiment, and our reality is not a thing. So we are
Not
in a
a-
damn matrix. Shit.
Then I want to know Kung Fu
Well,
instantly.
why do we bleed?
Load up the
I
program.
want wine. It's like, I'm gonna go happy. No, but what are your thoughts on that? Do we live in a matrix?
I don't know. I don't think we do. And if we do, it's like this complex thing by a race far more advanced than us. You know what I mean? Like it's, but I don't think so. No, I think we just live in a world that we don't fully understand everything yet. And that if we took it more seriously, like if more people took it seriously and was just less indulged in their own existence, they could get answers to it. You know what I mean? Because I don't think like the paranormal and quantum physics are unnatural. We just haven't figured it out yet.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure there was a time when civilizations were more in tune with everything that was going on, and it's massive supercomputer.
Wow.
You know what I mean? I think there was a time when, because you heard of like the Aztecs and the Mayans, the way
Yeah.
that they talk a lot about interacting with other beings,
They do.
gods and stuff that helped them develop their civilization. And then
It's
that just
only this timeline that seems to be fearful. The
Yeah.
timeline of media.
media
We're
and
also in a selfie era.
smartphones. We're so addicted to this crap.
Yeah, we're in a self entitled and
But we
selfie era.
fear.
Yes, we are.
Alien or extraterrestrial contact when the ancients revered them, and not only revered them, they built temples to them. They emulated them.
Mhm.
And yet we live in a timeline where media and technology should bring us into like the Star Trek age. Really, it should. And yet we're in a suppressed, fearful state.
Yeah.
Are they
Very
just reaching
fearful.
out and saying, don't be fearful? Like they're trying to, I think they're going to disclose that anyway, fairly soon.
You think so? Soon?
Yeah. I
I
do.
think we need to. I think we need to get rid of Elon Musk if we want any more information.
Well, I think realistically, the government's disclosure thing on UFOs was a joke, the military, because anybody with a camera phone has better crap than that little TikTok thingy flying
Oh
around.
God, yeah.
And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
believe that this goes.
That's the best you could give us.
I also believe that if you take a photograph with your cell phone and anything, they can flag photos just like they can flag conversations
And
and
anything.
specific words.
Anything.
So
But
nothing is private.
when you have people who come out of military, even astronauts now, I guess, they sign for so many years or you can't disclose anything.
Yeah.
And a lot of them, upon being released from that, have started giving their accounts of extraterrestrial sightings and their whistleblowing. Paul Hillier, come on, our defense minister, he was an advocate. He had seen ETs. He talked about ETs. There's a lot of people out there in really high positions, who have retired from the military, both Canada, the US, all over the world. And they're basically saying, no, we know they're extraterrestrials.
Keyword
We've seen them.
retired.
We've interacted with them. Photos are surfacing. People are right going down into accounts, like Harry Truman, Truman, Roosevelt, who had
Reagan.
Eisenhower,
Reagan. Carter.
Yeah. But they met with ETs and made deals. Right? Like it's FBI. God, they just released some files. Here's a good one for you. The FBI's, if you go into the FBI vaults, they've released scads of files. And what they clearly state in one document, because I've read it, is that Nikola Tesla was Venusian. He was
I saw something about that today, actually.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was brought to Earth and stayed with the Tesla family, but he was brought down with extraterrestrial beings from Venus. And Venus, if you're looking at what the belief is for people of Venus, they're very technologically inclined in like race of beings. Sure would explain a lot, wouldn't it?
It explains why money was never an issue, a thing for him. It was never about money. It was always about the end goal and the validity. Yes.
Yeah. I think our species is so stagnant. Like, you look how much we've developed. Like, we developed up to a certain point, like 10 years ago, with these phones and what they can do. And then I think like we just stopped.
Yeah, it's a money
Everyone
thing.
just stopped caring or just became so infatuated with the toys we currently have. Like, I don't know. I
Is
think
it the dumbing up of men?
Yeah, like it's getting dumber. It seems like, and the last few years has been a prime example.
It's a distraction.
I agree with you, because if you think about all the environmentalists, none of them are attacking the cell phone companies, and yet they're producing new phones every 8 months, and you're dumping your phone and picking up another one. Our biggest issue for trash and the environment is cell phone batteries and cell phones. Take up more space on the planet than any other thing that you dispose of.
I am proud to say I do not contribute to that problem, because I hang
keep
on
my
to my
phones.
crap for life.
I do too.
I've got every stinking cell phone I've ever had.
Yeah.
Like, but I don't. What do you think of the new metaverse?
The Facebook metaverse thing?
Yeah, I mean, this is the new upcoming thing. What do you think of that? Is that the dumbing up of society even more? Dumbing
I don't
down?
like being involved with Facebook. Like, I only use it to promote, because it's a good marketing tool for work. You know what I mean? But if I didn't have to use it, I would. And the only reason I went on it, I refused to go on it. And what was the one before that? MySpace.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
never
was
did
writing
that.
a story on a person who had been missing, and I needed a picture of them.
Right.
And then there's a picture on Facebook, but I couldn't get on Facebook to swipe the picture for the news article unless I signed up. And then once I signed up,
you're hooked.
Boom, you're hooked. Right?
It's a
Dang
drug.
it! Here I am.
It's a drug. There's a Facebook rehab.
I've been weaning myself away from it more and more often, because I can see how people just waste this time. It's a breeding ground for hatred and fear and paranoia and misinformation.
Social media is the toilet bowl of the internet.
It is.
Yeah.
It's an information collector is what it is. But we live in a time right now of complete division all over the world right now, so I think the dumbing down of mankind is just going to its next level. And I think people need to get back out and get back out to the forest, to the water, to the
Well, that's
earth.
where we're supposed to be. We're supposed to be outside in nature, moving and interacting. And so this
Exactly.
metaverse or whatever it is, from what I understand it, it's like going to be a virtual existence. Like you're going to have your avatar in a virtual world.
Why? When
What
you
do
have
mean
it all
God.
out here.
And cryptocurrency is going
It's
to be involved. It's
backwards.
nothing. It's ones and zeros in a computer, much like real money.
Yeah,
Like
I know.
it doesn't make sense. Like it just, why would someone be into that? But I bet you that'll be, I think, the final great divider.
It
There'll
will.
be those that buy into the metaverse and just spend their
Yeah.
entire lives on there, and their regular bodies are going to just cripple into nothing. Then there's going to be everyone else that's like going to be, screw this, I'm out.
Live
And they're going to
life.
go out into the woods and do what we should be doing all along.
Exactly. And I think that's probably a really good assessment. It's sad but true, but I think
And
it's
that'll
gonna
put us back even further.
It's true.
Than we
it's
should be.
true. If you get into like exopolitics, realistically, they all feel, researchers in exopolitics all feel we should be in the Star Trek age by now, that we've been held back that much
We
through
should
control.
be. Like, you look at how if you look at even the big predictors in the 70s,
Yeah.
right, of where we would be at, like we just stopped. Like we just
Mhm.
stopped. We got more interested
It's
in
true.
greed and entitlement and inconsequential BS. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
living a
It's
life.
true. Gene Roddenberry actually came into contact with these light beings who are said to exist in what's called a void, and they were called the Council of Nine. The Council of Nine are extreme light beings, and they only meet with people. Very, very rare occasion. And I've just learned this recently through research that Gene Roddenberry was one of those people. And the reason he was contacted was because he was a filmmaker, and they wanted him to slowly integrate and make people aware that this is how things should be. This is what exists out there. And they were going to return, once he accomplished this. He allegedly passed away, and because apparently they're returning like in the now, somewhere out there, to some people. But this is a big thing, because I always said that man was so far ahead of his time. It was unbelievable. And you look at like the Star Treks, all the movies and the different TV series that had that name. It's so far advanced. It's still far advanced.
Well, in the message, he had a message of inclusivity. And
Yeah.
that was the whole point. The whole point in Star Trek is that the Vulcans made themselves known when we could advance to the stars.
Yes.
And their appearance brought about the understanding of people on Earth that, we're not alone and we need to be more unified.
Yes.
And we do need to do that. And right now, everything's happening to drive everybody apart. And I mean, even look at the pandemic. Like, I mean, if you want to be a conspiracy theorist, it's almost like the whole thing just drove people even more apart. Like there's anti-maskers and
Our
anti-vaxxers.
our leader is dividing us.
Our leaders are divided.
We don't even have a leader that unites
on anything, on how to deal with it, right? Like
any good leader should unite. They should never divide.
Yeah.
So when that's happening, but you think about even going back then, the Council of Nine sound a lot like the Q.
Yeah.
That live in a void. Don't really need anything.
Now I want to watch Star Trek. I never watched it.
I know. It was really good.
Every time she talks about it, I always want to watch it, but I have to buy the DVDs because you can't find it anywhere.
Star Trek, the original series is on Netflix. The old 1960s one, Shatner. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Jason.
Now you can look at it and read between the lines, because I think in a way we're being taken there, but I think in a different way. Hold on. Okay, Dave. I believe the advancement already happened on a higher parallel dimension. Sure. So
yeah,
we
but
just
look at his next comment.
And the Mayans had the 9. Yeah.
Really?
Absolutely.
Didn't know that.
I believe that. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Can I steal this minute?
Yes. It's that time.
Okay. It's that time of the show. You're listening
Since
to
you have no camera. Go.
Yeah, sorry. Can't see my, bubbly face. Sorry. You're
I feel like The
listening
Price
to
is
The
Right.
Outer Realm with Michelle DeRoche and myself, Amelia Pisano. Our guest tonight is dear friend, author, and co-founder of Canadian Paranormal. Jason Hewlett is here tonight with us. We're live from the beautiful city of New Orleans on 105.3 FM radio, and we're streaming live on UFO Paranormal Radio, International Public Radio, Facebook, and you're watching us and listening to us on YouTube. Intro and outro of our show is courtesy of award-winning composer Dr. Snick, the sonic surgeon, also known as Justin Snicker, award-winning composer. You can find his music on Amazon in Bandcamp, and you can also find him on social media, Facebook and Instagram. Now, from day one, and we hope forevermore, we'd like to thank the amazing people at Folgers Coffee for sponsoring our show. Without you, we would not be here. Thank you so much, Folgers.
Thank you, Folgers. Absolutely.
Yeah. Best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
Right. Or your chalice if you're Hamilton White and Carl Cookson.
Yeah, well, they haven't put anything in that chalice because they're afraid to drink out of it.
I know. Obsidian.
Yeah.
Who knows what's in that
Who
thing?
knows what's in there? And it's
I'll
been
take
around
one for the
like,
team and try it.
oh my God, you would. And
I
you
would for sure.
Yeah, you would. I wouldn't.
I'm a researcher though, so somebody has to.
Yeah.
So, okay, so getting away from all the gloom and doom.
Yeah.
How do we get on that
Wow.
tangent?
Multiverses,
That's right.
parallel universes,
Selfie era.
stories. I don't know. I think the stories are fabulous. I think you should maybe do a book on people who've had these crazy experiences. Collect and compile some of this information because they're out there. The stories, all the stories that I found. I mean, I think we did 3 or 4 parts to the radio show. It went on for like a month. There was that much stuff out there. So there are people obviously having these experiences.
Yeah. And I think they continue to, right? It's just so often we dismiss that. The stories, it would just seem even too far out of the grasp because, even in my head, it's like people talking about time slip. I'm like, oh, well, how's that even possible? It's like, dude, you go into houses, you talk to ghosts, you had someone say your name, anything is possible, right? Like it really is. Open your mind to it. And it's best not to dismiss anything outright.
No,
Especially
because
in your voice.
Because if you're not thinking, you're not thinking anything, like, then where are they pulling? It's not like they can pull a thought from your head. But if it's another universe or our dimension, rather, it's like, to me, that's still confusing, even to me.
Like, here's the what if, because if Peter's asking that question, can you tell us your name? There's other me in this other dimension hearing, tell us your name. So what do you think he's going to do? Oh, Jason. And then it comes through and I'm standing next to this, Jason standing next to him hearing it. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
It's I think it's totally plausible.
So who's crossing?
Yeah. Or where are they crossing from? Right.
Yes. Because if you do look at the theory of different levels or, dimensions, when you see a ghost, for example, or doppelgangers, is it really a doppelganger, or are you just really seeing somebody slipping in and out? And when you're seeing spirits, there's the theory of, with demonics, that if you run into a demonic who's mimicking an individual, that a lot of times they will seem different in a way, like their clothes will either be too big or their hair might be different. But that's, I always say that's the more biblical version, religious version of everything, but take it into a different step. It's also the same belief that if it's the individual is from another dimension, like this happened with my mother. She saw my father, who was alive, by the way, and in an old age home, like he's in assisted living. And she said, I woke up, and this happened to her twice, where he was there and she could touch him and he was there, but yet he wasn't. But the second time she goes, he didn't look right. His clothes were too big for him. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
But with deceased people, they'll say, well, I saw my loved one, but they just looked different. They looked younger, happier.
Healthy, yeah.
but mainstream, spiritualism will say, well, you go back to the time in your life where you were the happiest. Is it that, or is it just a different dimension altogether, and they're just living simultaneous lives?
That's a big thing, the big question, right? And that's what Paul Dino says in his book, Beyond the Paranormal. He believes it's all multiverse. So it's not even a ghost. It's just that person from a different
dimensional bleachers, what Joe says.
Happening at the beginning of the veil. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Where they
true.
can interact with them for a bit.
So that would be, I guess, the doppelganger theory. Amelia, sorry, I keep forgetting you can actually see the screen, even though we can't see. If you want to read that off for the listeners who aren't actually
I'm very
watching.
mysterious. I can see you, but you can't see
You
me.
can't. It's just weird. I just naturally blurred out because I'm assuming you can't see anything. But
I
go
need
ahead.
a little mystery. I'm old. Nimdulak says, my ex swore up and down he chased me in my car, and I was at work at the time. He was pissed off at me because I didn't see him. So weird. Is it a doppelganger? Isn't the legend that if you see your doppelganger, it's
lights out?
Doesn't it mean, yeah.
It could be, but are we dealing with just you in a different?
Exactly. That's
right.
That's the whole thing. You have to question this now, because I remember Richard Estep, one of his investigators at one of the locations, he looked identical to Richard, and went to talk to him, and then he wasn't there. And it was at a location they were investigating. And meanwhile, Richard was somewhere else with someone else, was never on even that side of the building.
Wow. So maybe that's just parallel dimension or different layer. Multiverse.
But Richard never saw it, but Sean Crusha saw it. It was he actually was on, I believe, A Haunting or something, one of those shows with that story.
So what do you think, Jason?
I don't know. Like that to me, it does sound like a slip in a dimensional void. That's the only way to, especially if the person is that tangible. You know what I mean? And alive. And
he was chasing him, calling him.
Yeah. And this, you're just seeing that time slip, so he can't respond because he's just out of that wavelength, right? That's what it sounds like to me. Like,
yeah, really crazy, right?
Okay, so here's for people who hear things, because when you go to bed at night and you hear all these different frequencies and voices and like it sounds like old radio voices or old televisions. Or does that ever happen to you? I know, like with those of us who are intuitive or mediums, we can literally hear other things every night. Not a night goes by where I don't hear something. Mm-hmm. And is that just tapping into a different frequency, which might be coming from another dimension altogether?
I think it could be, or if you're kind of, in tune or even a bit empathic, you're just maybe picking up something else from around you.
Yes,
right?
Dave, 100%.
You know what I mean?
I wake up with the sound of a clock radio, and I don't have a clock radio and haven't had one in years.
Yeah.
But it's been going on for the longest time.
Yeah.
She does. She's back in the 70s. She's
Yeah.
back in the 70s, which doesn't make sense because I was born in 69. So it's like, how are we in these other dimensions? Are we identical to ourselves now? Or are we, like some will say, and then what does that say for reincarnation? For those beliefs.
Reincarnation. I was actually interviewing someone today on reincarnation for the upcoming book, because I think that's a good aspect to add into the story. If you have a near-death experience, you go to this wonderful place, do you come back? And they're very much, you have different lives, but then you have your times between lives in this space, and then you have memories of past lives in your current life. So, but if you believe in the multiverse, all these lives could still be going on
simultaneously,
and you die in one, and then you remember, you pop up in another one, and you remember. Like, I have a memory of being on a vacation with someone who I know now, but I dreamed it. I dreamed that we were on this big vacation, and it was really wonderful and all that. And I have moments where I have to pause, and because I think back to, wow, that was a great vacation. It's like, dude, you never went on that. You dreamt it, but it felt so real, right?
Yeah,
it was just a different one. It was a different.
Yeah,
I actually brought up with the reincarnation people today, and they're like, no, that was just you well sleeping, remembered a past life. And that's why it was so vivid and so strong, and why you can remember it even now.
Like a deja vu.
Just a dream.
Mm-hmm. I have
So what about
many deja vus.
deja vus? Like also like traveling when you sleep, maybe past lives.
Past
What?
life, it could be any of those, right? They posit that it's a past life experience that you're remembering.
Right.
Really?
Right.
Because deja vu, it feels like you've been there, done that,
Mhm.
and you've seen it coming.
Well,
Okay, it's
at
just
some point you did. It's in your subconscious.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
doesn't mean it's an
been there
imprint from
before.
here.
I have
Yeah.
too many of them. Sometimes it's debilitating. It makes me physically ill at times. But I found that after the NDEs, like you said, the past lives were more prevalent. You
Yep.
remembered more, and the deja vus were happening so much more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I have a
radio
lot of deja
frequencies.
vus, but I dream them before they happen.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of them. I
Interesting.
dream about it, and then like about 2, 3, 4 days later, I'm like,
Mhm.
I've done this before. It's like, no, you dreamt it. So you dreamt. So
Mhm.
in that case, like, that is a whole way you can go with that. You know what I
I
mean?
dream of people's deaths, which is terrible because
That's
they're always
premonition.
accurate.
That's
Yeah.
premonition.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that's
always
different.
on point. My father would always be afraid if I said, Dad, I had a dream of, he's like, don't tell me, I don't want to know.
I don't want to
No,
know.
it's
Because he was
hard.
scared of like, who now, right? Kind of thing.
Mhm. Radio frequencies.
Yeah, like things on the waves.
Do you ever have like I've had the occasional voice recording where you can hear faint music in the background, like they're riding the waves somehow. Have you
Okay.
ever had anything like that?
I haven't myself. No. I
Yeah.
think that would be interesting though to have that to actually.
I've got an interesting recording. It came through this is back in 1988, 89. And it showed up on, you have those old answering machines,
Mhm.
and like beep, and
Yep.
it just leave a message. She
The
came
cassette.
through on this message. It was someone I knew who had passed. She came through on this, left a message, but we had an agreement. And she said, whichever one of us, she was older than I was, like considerably, she was almost like a second mom to me. She goes, whichever one of us dies first comes back and notifies the other. I'm like, okay. She goes, well, it'll be me because I'll go first. Little did she know within less than a year, at 52, she would pass from cancer, which came out of remission. Yeah. My daughter's middle name was was her middle name. We were very, very close. But she left this message on the answering machine, and it starts off with faint music in the background. And then you can hear beep. She channeled through about 3 of them. And then
Really?
she spoke. And while she spoke, you could hear it in the background. And then it beeped and it went through one more channel and beeped again. And then it was done. Yeah, it's a phenomenal recording.
That's
That
a
would be.
beautiful thing.
Do you still have it? Like, is that something that you?
I do.
Nice.
Yeah, I do. I will try to see. I have it on a cassette. I know I transferred it digitally. It's probably in the old computer, but if I can dig it up, I will send it to you.
I would love to hear that. I
Okay.
really would. I've never heard anything like that before.
In the end, when she passed away, she ended up with pneumonia for a long time. So she was having a hard time, like there was fluid around her heart and it just sort of squeezing it. So she kind of spoke like this.
Mhm.
And it ended up, when they opened her up for surgery to drain that, the cancer came. And within 2 days, she was gone.
Yeah, the
But when she
oxygen.
spoke on that recording, it was in that voice. And she
wow.
was speaking to my cats. She used to call them her fellas. And in there she goes, hello, fellas, just like that. And it was just all this music in the back.
So you would know it was her.
I knew 100% it was her.
Oh
yeah. That's why
I played
she
it for
said
her
that.
husband. And I said, I wanted that extra validation. I came home because, like my boyfriend at the time, we were like together 4 or 5 years, and he was just kind of sitting there numb. And I'm like, what you doing? And he just goes, you need to play that. And I'm like, all right. And I played it and I was like, oh, I knew right away. And I played it for her husband. And he just goes, and he said her name. And I went, okay, good. And that was the validation.
Yeah.
And it was an old, standard size cassette that was in the tape recorder. So it's on tape also.
Which I find those when you get stuff on tape, that's even more so, right? Because you can mess with digital, but you can't mess with old analog tape.
100%. And there was nothing on the other side because we always used to erase
Yeah.
So there was nothing that could bleed through, because they say when you're doing EVPs, you should never flip and use both sides so you don't get any bleed through. And it wasn't. It was just a clean tape.
That's incredible. Yeah, if you can find it, I would love to hear that. That
Okay.
would be amazing.
Yeah. Okay. I'll dig. I've moved since then. And yeah. But I know I converted it because I know the family wanted to get the recording, but I knew it was meant for me, and I never gave up the cassette tape of it. So I just said, I'll send you through the the recording. I recorded it with a digital recorder off of while it was playing, which was the best I could do, but I wasn't going to give up the tape.
What a beautiful validation of it doesn't end here. Yeah. That's beautiful.
I think so.
Yeah. That's amazing.
But it lends to the theory of frequencies and how they ride the waves.
And I think frequency is a big, because I think we talked about this before, like the Earth has its electromagnetic frequency.
Yes.
And we are made of energy, electromagnetic energy. So it makes sense when we pass, that energy goes somewhere. And I think there's a big, if ghosts are just ghosts, I think a big way to explain it is that energy is in the Earth electromagnetic field. And that's how they can manipulate a spirit box or a recorder or call and leave a message on an answering machine.
I agree with you.
Right? And it's just understanding how that frequency works.
I agree with you. And it wasn't like a radio station. There was a song playing through the whole thing. And even though that thing kept beeping, there's a song.
Yeah, the song didn't stop because it was different messages. It would stop and then become something else.
That's right. And it didn't. You could hear it beep. That's right. You could hear it beep, and you could hear it just channel through 4 different spaces.
That's incredible. That's awesome.
It really was. And I wasn't into paranormal or anything back then. This is a long, long time ago. It was just an experience. And for me, it was meant for me. It was very personal for me. It wasn't until years and years later. I mean, I didn't get involved into the paranormal in 2004. That was it. So, I mean, this happened in 1989.
That would make me go down the road of paranormal. Absolutely.
Yeah.
One way or another, it's going to happen. But, it's what I always say. I believe that they often, the dead will often leave messages. Life gets so busy, we don't pay attention to some of the signs that they're leaving. The example I always use, and people will hear me say it, is that if you put a glass on the table and you go to work and you come back, and if that glass is moved, are you going to say to yourself, oh, I left the glass on the table? Or are you going to say to yourself, that glass is moved. That's not where I've left it. Something's not right. Like, you know what I mean? Like, we don't pay attention to all the signs that are left out there. And it's a shame because I believe that not everyone has the energy when they pass to just do something like that. But she was really into that sort of thing. So I knew she would do something really interesting when she could. It took her 2 weeks, though, and she did it. Mind you, she appeared to one of her family members after 3 days, like full on. So she definitely taught herself. But there are some spirits that could only do something so minute. Sometimes it's just a smell, a sound, anything to trigger a memory even. We just don't pay attention.
Do you think they can, this is something I've been looking at recently too, they can communicate in your dreams? That's a way for them to kind of
visitation.
And that might be even the easiest way because you're kind of in a state of, semi-conscious,
It's a visitation dream. When my best friend died, I had 2 of them like that. I knew she came to see me when she died, and I didn't get the call until 3 hours later.
Oh.
And then, it was my best friend for like 30 years. So I had a really difficult time with that one many years ago now also. But, she came to me also in a visitation and it was very casual. I'm just looking at her, she goes, she's just looking, she goes, what's wrong? Even in my visitation, and she's like, you don't know how happy I am right now. And I'm just like, okay. But she, I always was very forgetful, and she held on to all of our memories. She remembered everything. Like, I'm never going to remember anything ever again, And she goes, you'll learn. She goes, right? She goes, you'll go on. And I just went, it was like a light went on. I went, I will.
She's right.
Yes.
and I will. All right, thanks. And I never had a visitation with her again after that. but it was just enough for her to go, come on, what's wrong with you?
Wake
You
up.
know?
Yeah. Get
But the
more.
visitations are so real, you can remember every detail.
Yeah.
Whereas dreams, you don't.
No, I had, like, when my father passed away at 19, I didn't dream about him at all, ever, for like until like 2017. I remember I was trying to make a choice about a job that I wanted to get into. And I was dreaming that we were back in the house I grew up in, which he built. And I was coming out of the kitchen, and I was in the dream, I was like talking with my mom and blah, blah, blah. I remember turning around and leaving the kitchen, and he was standing right there, and he just goes, "Hey, guy." And I just woke right up. I was like,
What?
dreamt of, no dream about him in like 20 odd years,
Wow.
26 years, nothing. And it's all it took. I was just like, I just took it as a big, like, you're all right, everything's fine. So that's why I'm showing up now.
Yeah.
But it startled me so much, I woke up.
But you're also more aware now too than
Yeah.
what you might have been. But it just goes to show you that they don't really miss a beat. They are
No.
very present in your life.
I think
Right.
and they're around all the time. Like
Yeah.
it's something that goes on all the time. And I think the more you accept these events that happen to you, like the dream thing, the more in tune you get. You know what I mean? Like if you're willing to sort of shut off, like you're talking about, the noise of the world around us, and just start focusing on what's actually real here,
Mhm.
not computers and social media and all that, but the real stuff, you get more in tune. I think it allows you to wake up that faculty we have in our brain.
I agree.
That's what all this technology is for, is to numb you.
Yeah, well, it definitely is. I believe it more and more, and that's why people have become maybe even more afraid
Right.
of things like ghosts and the paranormal and what happens when we die, because it's real. You have to address it, but you can numb that by scrolling through someone's Instagram feed for, you know what I mean? Like,
Have you ever tried it with a ghost box? People used to come and stay at this house to have an experience. There was something about this place that it would do, just crank on the ghost box and they would be in contact with their loved ones. I've had more emotional moments here. Even Wayne's father had a very strong British accent, very difficult to understand. And would just, it was like their voice. Many, many times people come in and go, no, it was their demeanor. It was their voice. They would only say things that they could know. So I'm like, yeah, go ahead, crank it on, man, whatever.
Yeah, just see what works, right? And how people respond.
I've had people just, cry in my arms, just fall on the floor crying and just like have emotional experiences. I'm just like, but they're like, you helped me to heal. Thank you. I'm just like,
Yeah.
I think it can be very healing, like this line of work for people, right? I mean, and I find even like these residential cases, like these people are generally concerned about what's happening in their house.
Yes.
Want to know what's going on. They want that comfort, right? And they want us to, and we always tell them we can't get rid of it, kind of thing. That's not what we do, but we can kind of at least give you enough evidence or answer so you can make a decision of what course of action you want to take. Right?
Yeah, can you live with it or not live with it? It's something very unusual. People have difficulty. I mean, it's tough. You struggle through everyday life, but to try to get an understanding of something you can't see, and if you have something that's pretty like malevolent in nature, now you're thinking, I can't even protect my family. Like, I don't even know what to do with this. Like, if people aren't schooled, I mean, there's not they can go to take a course on an average, they're out there, but they're not schooled or versed in this kind of thing. It's just like, what do you do? Like the job of a good paranormal investigator, a good investigator is very important, because you become counselor. You become, I always tell people, just say, I would always go into a house and I would just say, let me take the weight for a little while. Don't worry. I'll take the weight.
Well, exactly. Right.
It's important.
That's why, even with asking them to leave, like, it's one, so that we can check what happens when they're not there, but you guys just get out and we'll just sit here and see what we can, don't worry about it.
Right.
It'll be our problem for a couple hours if there's anything here.
Do you ever get families that say, with your information, that say, you know what, we're actually okay with this, like they can stay and live happily ever after?
Oh yeah, and they're quite often, like, it's once they kind of realize what it is, especially if it's nothing malicious, and rare is it that we've ever found anything that is. Most people are fine. They might eventually move, but more for other reasons than the fact this is going on. I don't think in any of the ones I've done, anyone's ever just left because of what's actually happening in their home.
Right. Well, this house is haunted. I mean, we're good old Bot's giving me one last hurrah.
Wasn't that bad tonight?
Jeez, no, we've had some real doozies on here, 15 at a time, and
Last week
like
was,
porn
and it
spam,
was
and
it
it's
was
great.
smut.
Yeah, it's
I
awesome.
have to go through our comment section, all our Paranormal Network videos once in a while and just delete.
Oh yeah, it's
Yeah.
just not freaking stop, honestly. Oh, look at that, another one. Look at you go.
Telling you.
All right, there we go, 2 for 2.
Oh, I love that. Nim
Yeah.
says, yeah, good point. Spiritual social work need compassion and facts all together.
Exactly.
It's true. It's true. And I think also it comes down, like, if you can't do something, just refer somebody to someone in their area if you can't
Mhm.
be there. I've worked up an amazing social or paranormal network of people, especially back in the day. Like, I couldn't be anywhere. I travel around the world, so it's like you can make yourself accessible. I worked in the US a lot and here, and any investigating I did on the other side of the world was just more for my own curiosity. But I think that there are some researchers that just don't want to do that for whatever reason. They can't help the people, but it's almost like they just want to hang on. They just don't want to put that out there.
Well, and I think there's a lot of people who investigate who are more out for the thrill of it. They're not really interested in helping anyone. They're out there to have their own experience.
So why not go to like a public place, like an old asylum or an old jail or something? Oh, you gift that keeps on giving. Look at that. But
That's hilarious.
yeah, because I mean, you people don't realize you're messing with somebody here. You're messing with somebody's family. Like,
Yeah.
you
Someone's life,
can't
their home, where they live, where they're supposed to feel comfortable, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, you can't just turn around and just say, look, you know what? Like, you're making in all these demands. I demand you to show yourself. I want you to do this. I want you to do that. Look, buddy, you get to go home.
Mm-hmm.
These people are stuck here. You're messing with that.
A lot of that, I think.
Sometimes, there's been cases where you go in and you do that, you make these demands and nothing happens. But as soon as your ass is out the door,
That's yeah, exactly. It's the family that's kind of stuck with it.
right?
I'm all for people who want to go and have their experiences. I just think you have to leave, other people out of there. I through the years I've cleaned up a lot of messes, a lot, and you have people giving false information. These people reach out to an investigator. They want answers and good advice. They don't want a hypothesis or do this or do that. I mean, it's all hypothesis in a way, but they don't want advice that's going to backfire. Like, take all your mirrors and turn them the other way. And what the freaking hell did you just say? Like,
Really?
I know, like, turn all your mirrors around the other way. I've seen this stuff, and I'm like,
No, I know.
so never look in the mirror again is what they're telling you.
And movies and TV will popularize those sort of theories. You know what I mean? And that's how
Yes.
you deal with the problem. And and a lot of people who don't know any better who watch these shows think that's what's needed in their home. You know what I mean? And it's like, no. Like, this isn't like the Conjuring 3. Like,
No, exactly.
you don't need to
And
worry
not
about
everybody's that extreme. No.
Yeah.
But yeah. Well, I'm glad that you're out there doing what you're doing. I'm glad that you are of sound mind,
that. Try to
level-headed.
be.
Yeah, level-headed and
think.
diligent. So this is the part of the show where you promote yourself, because we are nearing the end already. I know it's just like time flies, but promote yourself. And how can everyone find you?
Well, no, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Well, you can find the Canadian Paranormal Foundation on Facebook, at Canadian Paranormal Foundation. The Paranormal Network's on there as well, at Paranormal Headquarters.
Right.
Myself, Jason Hewlett. I'm on Instagram at jhewlett72, and Facebook is Jason Hewlett. I think it's .76. I guess there's 76 of us or something like that around there.
Right.
But and I mean, if you're interested, like in my books, I Want to Believe, an Investigator's Archive, and I Want to Believe, One Man's Journey to the Paranormal. They're both available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and at the Book Depository online. So,
Nice.
Fantastic.
Trying
And
to
if
be out there and keep it real.
somebody wants, well, we appreciate that because there's a lot out there that's very questionable. So, so if somebody wants to contact you for an investigation, the best place to contact you is at.
Yeah, if it's for an investigation, definitely like via Canadian Paranormal, or even just
Right.
reach out to myself. Like my email is jhewlett72@gmail.com. We're in Western Canada, so if it's
Right.
you have to kind of be in that neck of the woods until for the next few months at least, until it feels safer to travel much further, which we do
Right.
want to do.
And if you have any amazing experiences, share it up. But if you have any time slips, because I think that should be your next book.
That's going to be an interesting one. That could be a good future.
Beware on Saturday.
I know.
Yeah, and I will let both of you know what happened Saturday night, if anything.
Please,
That
Jason,
would
I'm
be
looking
nice.
forward
I
to
know.
knowing.
I
Yeah.
know. That would be really interesting.
I almost want
see.
to like kill your phone and FaceTime so I can be there with you and watch it. I'm so jealous. We can't go anywhere here, so
No, it's true. We're still,
yeah.
we're still in the pity lockdown. So
Isn't that supposed to be ending pretty quick though? Like
the 31st.
the 31st, yeah. So Monday, yeah.
No, it's going to 50% capacity. It's not ending.
So it's not even fully.
No, they'll do the 3-week thing, and then you know the drill. You live here.
Oh, we've been through all of this.
Yes.
It sounds like the science is saying that by summer, at least, it'll be mostly endemic in most of our parts of the world, and I hope so.
Let's hope
I
so,
can
because they just
only
found a new
hope.
variant. So let's hope.
This one, if you look at the science, though, it's even less.
Yeah,
risky.
it should
They're all
be
getting
with
less.
each one, right?
Yeah.
They
Well,
said
no.
it should be.
A virus is a living thing, so what's the point in killing off the host?
Yeah.
Right? We just lived through the birth of another
That's right.
annual bug. Basically, it was a bad one.
Exactly.
It was because no one had it, so there was
It's getting
no
less
immunity.
and less and less. So
Yeah.
eventually we can just kick it in the butt and move
Well,
on.
A lot of people say, well, why, the flu's the same way. I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Spanish flu came in after World War II and World War I, and it wiped out millions of people because there was no immunity just like this.
Yeah, that's exactly
It takes time to build the immunity around the world. And then it exactly will be the same thing.
Yeah, and by this time next year, I'm sure it'll be even more so. Like,
Yeah.
Let's hope so. I don't want to talk about another year down the road.
No.
Like this. I just don't want to.
No, we've talked 1 year down the road for years now.
I know, right?
No, I want to be
I
in
just
Europe
want to
this
sit
time
at a
next year.
table with my family. My God.
I know, but,
Exactly.
Yeah.
anyway, Jason, thank you again for joining us, and let us know when that other book is out, because you can come back on and tell us all about it.
Absolutely, it'd be my pleasure, and thank you so much again for your support and friendship, and for having me on. It's been
Oh,
fantastic
you're
as
the
always.
best. We
Always.
love you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so
Bye.
much, Gal.
Thank you.
care.
Night.
Night.
Good night.
Well, we have already come to the end of another fantastic segment of the Outer Realm. Jason is just awesome, isn't he? We just love having him on. So a huge thank you to him for joining us again, and big thank you to Folgers Coffee for sponsoring us for all this time. And you do make it possible. You guys are just wonderful. Big thank you, Dr. Snick, aka Justin Snicker, for providing us with our intro and outro. So please remember, our time to plug. Stop by our YouTube channels for the network, which is International Public Radio, UFO Paranormal Radio, and UFO Gods and Extraterrestrials, and subscribe. Do not forget about Little Old Us over on Facebook, and you can find us on The Outer Realm with Michelle Drosh and Amelia Pisano. Show us a like. If you are interested in being on the show, I get so many messages coming through Messenger. Guys, I have probably at least 4 pages, now more with the network pages to watch. And I can't do it. Just my personal one alone, I get well over 100 messages a day. It's too difficult. The only, and it does take me a bit of time, so please bear with me, but the only, messages we look at are by email, which is the outer realm contact@gmail.com. Again, the outer realm Gmail, or rather, sorry, the outer realm contact@gmail.com. The outer realm contact@gmail.com. That is really the only thing I'm going to reply to. And again, we do get, quite a bit. Sometimes there's just stories to tell. Whatever you want to send, feel free. I will eventually get to them all, but I won't get to any on Messenger. So that is the only way. So tune in tomorrow night as we welcome the return of Dr. Kimberly McGeorge. And she's going to be discussing possession and deliverances, and clearings for houses and land, and really looking forward to it. She's a very well-versed lady. So, and until then, Amelia and I do bid you guys a good night, and thank you for tuning in. Thank you to everybody in chat, and we will all see you tomorrow night.
You have been listening to The Outer Realm with Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Pisano, airing live every Wednesday and Thursday evening, 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern, 8 to 10 p.m. Central, on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM in New Orleans.